Most Canadians assume that once they retire, the hard work is done. You've saved, you've invested, and now it's time to finally enjoy the freedom you've worked so hard for. But here's the hidden problem. Retirement isn't about how much you've saved, it's about how much you get to keep after taxes. I've seen families with $2 million in retirement savings who still feel squeezed because their withdrawals are being eaten alive by taxes and clawbacks. And I've seen others with much less live incredibly comfortably because they built their income plan the right way. Think about it this way. If your retirement paycheck isn't structured properly, you could lose thousands of dollars every single year, not because of bad investments, but because the CRA is quietly taking up more than their fair share. The good news? With the right strategy, you can build a paycheck in retirement that's not just reliable, but also tax efficient, so more of your money stays in your wallet and in your pocket. Hi, I'm Danny Perro, Senior Investment Advisor at CG Wealth Management. If you're a business owner, a professional, or someone approaching retirement with significant savings, this message is for you, because building wealth is only half the journey. The real challenge is turning that wealth into income you actually can spend without paying more tax than you need to. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. How to design a retirement paycheck that works for you, not the CRA. If you find this content valuable, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more expert financial content. Part 1. Understanding your income sources. The first step is knowing where your paycheck will actually come from in retirement. For most affluent Canadians, this usually means a mix of the following: RRSPs, which will eventually become RRIFs, TFSAs, non-registered investments, company pensions or IPPs, CPP, and old age security. And here's why this matters. Each of these sources is actually taxed differently. RRIF withdrawals are 100% taxable as income. TFSA withdrawals are completely tax-free. And non-registered accounts may generate capital gains and dividends, which are taxed more favorably than interest income. CPP and OAS are taxable, and OAS is subject to clawbacks once your income crosses a certain threshold. So your retirement paycheck isn't just about how much you withdraw each year, it's about where you draw it from. So if you treat every source the same way, you'll end up paying much more than you need to in taxes. Part 2. The sequence of withdrawals matters. Think of your retirement income like a series of faucets. The order will determine how much water fills your glass and how much spills over to the CRA. What I see is that many Canadians default to delaying RRSP withdrawals as long as possible. On the surface, that seems smart. Let the money keep growing tax deferred. But here's the catch. The longer you wait, the bigger those RRSPs become. And once they're forced into a RRIF at age 71, the required withdrawals can be so large that they push you into a higher tax bracket. Let me give you a real-world scenario that I've encountered. For example, John, who retired at 62 with $1.5 million in RRSPs, puts $300,000 in his TFSA. He didn't want to touch the RRSP, so he lived off non-registered savings and waited. Well, by 71, his RRSP had grown to over $2 million. When he was forced to convert to a RRIF, his minimum withdrawals were nearly $120,000 a year, pushing him into the top tax bracket and triggering an OAS clawback. Compare that with Susan, who had a similar nest egg, but instead of deferring, she started drawing modest amounts from her RRSP in her 60s, keeping her withdrawals steady. This not only lowered the size of the RRIF, but later on also allowed her to keep her OAS, old age security, intact. The lesson? Sometimes it's smarter to withdraw earlier at lower tax rates than later at a much higher one. Part 3. Use the TFSA as a buffer. Your TFSA is more than just a savings vehicle. It's the ultimate tax planning tool. And here's why. Withdrawals from your TFSA are completely tax-free. That's right, completely tax-free. They don't count towards your income, they don't affect your tax bracket, and they don't trigger old age security clawbacks. Let's look at an example. A couple, Mark and Laura, need $90,000 a year in retirement to maintain their lifestyle. Between CPP, OAS, and their RRIF withdrawals, they will bring in about $75,000. That extra $15,000, if they pull it from a RRIF, it could push them into a higher tax bracket and cost them thousands in tax. But if they pull it from their TFSA, it's completely tax-free. This is the flexibility I'm talking about. And it means that your TFSA can act as a shock absorber in years where you need the extra cash. For example, for a big family trip or a car purchase or to help a child with a home down payment. By pulling from your TFSA instead of taxable accounts, you can keep your overall income steady. Over time, this could be the difference between losing part of your old age security and keeping it. Part number 4, income splitting with a spouse. For couples, pension income splitting is one of the simplest and most tax-effective strategies available. Once you're over 65, you could split up to 50% of your eligible income. Pension income, including RRIF withdrawals, with your spouse. The idea is simple. Move income from the higher income earner to the lower income earning spouse so you reduce the household's overall tax bill. Recently, I worked with a couple where one spouse had a large RRSP and the other had a small one. Before splitting, the higher earner was in the top marginal tax bracket, while the other was in a much lower one. By rebalancing through income splitting, they saved more than $6,000 a year in taxes. It doesn't require complicated investing or restructuring. It's just about using the rules that the CRA has already in place. Part number 5, managing the dreaded OAS clawback. Old age security is one of the most misunderstood benefits in retirement. It's often seen as a guarantee, but in reality, the more you earn, the less you may receive. In 2025, the clawback begins once your net income exceeds roughly $90,000. Every dollar above that threshold reduces your old age security benefit by 15 cents. By the time your income crosses $150,000, your OAS benefit entirely gone. So here's an example. David, a retired professional, had $95,000 in retirement income. On paper, that's great, but because he was $5,000 over the threshold, he lost about $750 in his old age security that year. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but over 20 years of retirement, that's $15,000 gone unnecessarily. And for those much further above the threshold, the losses can be far greater. The smarter plan is to control how much taxable income you draw each year. Maybe you withdraw slightly less from your RRIF and top it up with TFSA funds, keeping yourself just under that clawback line. The difference can add up to tens of thousands of dollars across your retirement timeframe. Part number 6, flexibility with non-registered accounts. Finally, let's talk about non-registered investments. These are often overlooked in retirement, but they can be incredibly useful. Unlike RRIFs, where withdrawals are forced and fully taxable, non-registered accounts give you flexibility. You decide when to realize the gains, when to sell assets, and how to generate cash flow. For example, if you need $20,000, you might sell an investment with a capital gain. Only half the gain is taxable, and in many cases, it can be taxed at a much lower rate than ordinary income. This flexibility also makes non-registered accounts valuable for estate planning. RRIFs are fully taxable at death, which can create a massive tax bill for your heirs. Non-registered investments, however, benefit from a step up in cost base, meaning only unrealized capital gains may be taxed. In short, registered accounts are a key piece of building not just a tax-efficient retirement paycheck, but also a tax-efficient legacy. Here's the takeaway for today's video. A successful retirement isn't just about investments, it's about income. If you don't have a strategy, you're risking paying more tax than necessary, losing your old age security benefits, and creating an uneven income stream that doesn't support your lifestyle. But when structured properly, by balancing RRIF withdrawals, using your TFSA as a buffer, splitting income with your spouse, and yes, managing OAS carefully, you can build a retirement paycheck that's steady, reliable, and tax efficient. If you want a second opinion on your plan, book a time with me using the link in the description below. Because as you know, money never sleeps.